Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanikanscha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna. Welcome all devotees for the regular Bhagavatam session. So we have today His Grace Madhav Sharan Prabhu, and we'll hear the nectar from Canto 5, Chapter 13, and text number 6. Over to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. First of all, I would like to take the blessings of all the assembled devotees because this is subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So blessings of devotees are very important. And also thank you for giving the opportunity for doing this seva. This chapter is entitled Rahoguna Converses with Jada Bharata. So today we are going to cover 5.13.6. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kvachid vitoyah sharito bhiyati parasparam chala sate nirandaha asadya davam kvachidagni nirvidyate kvacha yakshair suhu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation goes like this. Sometimes the conditioned soul jumps into a shallow river, or being short of food grains, he goes to beg food from people who are not at all charitable. Sometimes he suffers from the burning heat of household life, which is like a forest fire. And sometimes he becomes sad to have his wealth, which is as dear as life, plundered by kings in the name of heavy income taxes. Purport. When one is hot due to the scorching sun, one sometimes jump into a river to gain relief. However, if the river is almost dried up and the water is too shallow, one may break his bones by jumping in. The conditioned soul is always experiencing miserable conditions. Sometimes his effort to get help from friends are exactly like jumping into a dry river. By such actions, he does not derive any benefit. He only breaks his bones. Sometimes suffering from a shortage of food, one may go to a person who is neither able to give charity nor willing to do so. Sometimes one is stationed in household life, which is compared to a forest fire. Samsara dava nalaledhalok. When a man is heavily taxed by the government, he becomes very sad. Heavy taxation obliges one to hide his income, but despite this endeavor, The government agents are often so vigilant and strong that they take all the money anyway, and the conditioned soul becomes very aggrieved. So we can see the second part of the purport during the class. So this section actually, in fact, the chapters, I think from 7, the topic between the Jada Bharata and also now we are in this section, it's bit the conversation between the Jada Bharat and the King Rahogana. And topic goes till next chapter. So there are multiple conversations happening. If you see here, the conversation between Jada Bharat and Rahogana, King Rahogana, and this is the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura. Of course, which we know in Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes there are multiple conversation. So Maitreya and Vidura, and which is the conversation between the Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And like that, that is the conversation between Sutta Goswami and Naimisharanya, like that. So we know this sometimes multiple conversations happening. So here this conversation is between King Rahogana and Jada Bharata. So basically, before understanding the verse in one angle, we can understand we are the Jivatma, spirit soul, and also along with the Paramatma is there. So Jivatma and Paramatma, they are always separated by the wall of false ego. Actually, Paramatma is giving various directions, but the Jivatma cannot understand or see Paramatma inside the heart. And that is because of the false wall of the false ego. What Paramatma speaks cannot be heard by the Jivatma because of this. So what happens? Paramatma understands this and mercifully he sends outside various spiritual masters so that we can hear them and we can understand the spiritual knowledge. The more we hear externally from the spiritual masters, the more of breaking down of this wall between the wall of false ego that takes place. That means the more we hear externally, the more we are able to hear internally. That is because the purification of the heart takes place. Vasudeva Kataruchi. So hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very important. So when we hear more externally, we can hear from the voice of the Paramatma more internally. But if we don't hear externally, then we cannot hear the voice of Paramatma internally because that purification may not be taking place. So that is the thing. So we have to understand that it's very, very important to hear Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Why Krishna is like we can hear more internally when we are hearing from externally? That is because Krishna sees the sincerity of the devotee, and when we are trying to take the guidance from outside, taking shelter of the devotees, and we are trying to do the application, then Krishna, by seeing the sincerity of the devotees, he purifies the heart. Then we can see Paramatma more internally. But if we don't hear externally, we are not so much serious in hearing process, because sometimes devotees may be doing so many sevas or in the beginning also we see so many devotees, they do so many sevas, but they are lacking in hearing and chanting. So if we are not hearing properly, taking instructions or from the senior devotees or the spiritual masters, we are not abiding by the authorities, then what Krishna thinks that, okay, we want to act on our own accord. We are not abiding or surrendering to the authority. Then Krishna thinks, I will not interfere in your life, because you are also not seeking for guidance externally. So Krishna will also keep quiet. He will not interfere with our life. So that's why we have Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So Shastras are give the directions. It's like we have to live a life of in the light of the scriptures. Scriptures are ultimately meant to connect the Jivatma to the Paramatma. So why we are discussing this? Because in this particular section, this section basically explains how miserable the material life is, and we just have to get out of the material life, material world altogether. And we have to progress, and as we progress, we take the directions from the Paramatma. Dadhami buddhi yogam tum. So Krishna is situated as Paramatma, and then he will give the required intelligence to get out of the material world. So basically, here it is explained the material world is a miserable place. It gives various examples like how the Jivatma is suffering. Conditioned souls jumped into shallow river, or no food, proper food grains. Sometimes he has to beg. Burning heat, sometimes forest fire. So all these things, it has been explained. Of course, this is the recurring theme in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If we see this Prahlad Maharaj, what does he say? Sitvatvapatam grahamanda kopam. So this material world is like, material life is like deep dark well. Graham anda kopam. So the whole material world, if we are not taking the shelter of Lord Krishna, then it's like we are living in the deep dark well. And also if we see the life of the Pandavas, how much suffering they underwent. So the whole theme is like we understand that this world is Dukhalayam and Ashashvatam. That is the thing is there. Mamupetya punarjanma dukhalayam ashashvatam. Napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gatah. So on one level, we have to understand this material world is Dukhalayam and Ashashvatam. But only understanding that is not enough. How should we act? That is also very important. So that part we will understand in today's class, because previously Vrishabhadev's teachings were also stressing more or less on this theme, that one has to perform tapasya, tapodivyam putrakayena sat. And here also Jada Bharat teachings basically similar ground. Basically the theme is generally the difference between karma kanda and bhakti, and one has to perform the pure devotional service, not stick only onto the karma kanda. This theme is also there. For example, every book explains about particular central tension, what we call it as, or the theme. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains completely about the pure devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti. If you see Bhagavad Gita also, first Arjuna is confused about his duties. Then is thinking of the Kula Dharma, that I should not fight, because if I kill the Bhishma Pitamaha or the Dronacharya, what will happen? Varna Shankaras will be more. All these things he is thinking in those terms. But the whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken to for Arjuna to understand his Kshatriya Dharma and fight the battle. So similarly, every book has some central tension or the theme. So Srimad Bhagavatam explains about generally the pure devotional service and how the difference between the karma kanda and the pure devotional service, how Shuddha Bhakti has to be performed. If we take the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in Naimisharanya Rishis, they performed the sacrifices for thousands of years. They told our eyes have become black, but we don't have tangible realizations. So they tell to Sutta Goswami, and then later Sutta Goswami explained the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in they were doing karma kanda yajnas, and later Sutta Goswami explained about the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like Shravanam and Kirtanam part of Bhagavata Vidhi. So we can understand from karma kanda they move like undertook the shelter of the Navavida Bhakti or the Bhagavata Vidhi. So similarly, canto by canto, if we analyze, fourth canto, King Prachina Bharishat. So he was a karma kandi king. More, he was a religious king. He was not a sinful king. But the Narada Muni convinces him ultimately to give up karma kanda and take up Shuddha Bhakti. So similarly, in this section also, King Rahogana is not a sinful king. He is a virtuous king. And if previously we are seeing how he is asking intelligent questions. And he is also concerned about a king's duty is to engage his citizens in making them perform their prescribed duties. But the point here is they are thinking about the duty, but duty in the bodily concept of life, bodily point of view, they think. So karma kanda doesn't raise if it is one from the bodily conception, bodily conduct point of view, because it is the intersection of the religion and the bodily concept of life. But Srimad Bhagavatam kicks out all the Kaitava dharma. In the bodily concept of life, what we think, I want material enjoyment. I want to enjoy, but I will enjoy in a religious way. I will do some religious act, and through that I will have the material enjoyment. Even if we see King Indra in the heavenly planets, he in the background he knows that I am not this body, I am the soul, everything he knows. But he wants to enjoy the heavenly kingdom and the heavenly wealth, all those things he wants to enjoy. So Vedic scriptures, it tells us to give up the bodily conception of life. So there are karma kanda sections, jnana kanda sections. They tell us to give up the bodily conception of life, but these karma kanda and all, they are gradually taking one from the bodily concept of life. But the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam is it is spontaneously, very fast, rapidly taking out. Srila Sukadeva Goswami is narrating Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days, because Parikshit Maharaj had only 7 days. There he was he could didn't have much time, and it is a emergency situation. So that's why even Srila Prabhupada, he mentioned many times, Krishna consciousness is emergency. It's an urgent thing. So that's why we have to have that laulyam to grow in the spiritual life and attain Krishna's lotus feet as soon as possible. That laulyam should be there from our side. That is why Krishna consciousness is, emergency. And narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam are not karma kanda topics, because karma kanda topics, it will slowly, gradually take one from the bodily concept of life. But the subject matter is pure devotional service, which rejects the bodily conception of life straight away. So that is why second shloka itself, dharma prochita kaitavat, that shloka kicks out all the sub-religious principles. Sub-religious means kaitava dharma, all the kaitava dharma, all it is abandoning. And even in the 6th canto, if we see Daksha Prajapati and Narada Muni, again Daksha Prajapati is a religious personality, and then he sends his sons to do the tapasya. But when Narada Muni comes and makes them devotees of the Lord, he is not happy. So again, the karma kanda versus bhakti. So as a whole, we can understand sometimes we may not fully wholeheartedly accept the process of pure devotional service, even though we may seem to be religious or following the various limbs of the devotional life. We have to first, for this we need to first think, what is my real goal and how fast I want to achieve it. Based on that, I will tune my desires and act upon it. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandan. One-pointed determination should be there. So in today's class, what we will see, we will not see that the shloka from the point of view that how the material world is a miserable place. That is already known through various pastimes, that this world is a miserable place. Dukhalayam ashashvatam. But we will see like how this knowledge of the material world being miserable world, it transforms into our practical living in our spiritual way of leading the life. Or practical, how do we think practically? That is what we are going to see. Here, even Srila Prabhupada is giving various examples how the government is taxing the man, and he is miserable. He becomes very sad. Heavy taxation obliges one to hide his income, but despite this endeavor, the government agents are often so vigilant, strong, that they take all money anyway, and the conditioned soul becomes very aggrieved. And also here in the next section of the purport, he is mentioning, in this age there will also be a shortage of rain. Therefore, a scarcity of food will arise, and the citizens will be very much harassed by the government taxation. In this way, the citizens will abandon their attempts to lead a peaceful life and will leave their homes and hearts to go to the forest in sheer disappointment. So Srila Prabhupada is already predicted this many years before, how the taxation by the government will go on increasing, and the people will become more and more miserable. Actually, this is the fact also. Many people are trying to not give any taxes and avoid taxes, but somehow government is also very rigid. They do income tax raid and so many things to extract the money from the citizens who are not willing to give the tax. So as a whole, the Jivatma becomes very miserable. When Srila Prabhupada went to West, many people were looking for spiritual enlightenment. These hippies. uh, Actually, that time some people were very pessimistic also. Uh, they left many of the wealth and other things, but they were looking for some spiritual enlightenment, and they were turning towards this Jerusalem, Israel, and some were looking also in 1950s, 40s, 50s, and some were looking also towards India. They knew that India is a spiritual place, and they were looking for spiritually, enlightenment, all these things. But when they came to India, the condition of the India was very terrible for them. They saw many beggars, then flies here and there, not very clean. So as a whole, they could not relate to two things: how spiritual enlightenment on one side and poverty on the other side. So basically, they were seeing that India is a miserable place. So that's why we have to understand that, of course, we can understand the world is a miserable place. But from our side, we don't have to be in that miserable place, but we have to try to organize the things in such a way that our basic necessities are fulfilled very properly. That is very, very important, because if we take one example, for example, Parikshit Maharaj and Srila Sukadev Goswami, they heard and spoke this Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days, 7 nights, without any eating, without any sleeping, no water. Then based on that, we cannot make the principle that Parikshit Maharaj did not eat and or drink water. So we should also do the similar way. We cannot do like that. The point of what I'm trying to make here is, the world is a miserable place and it is also temporary. That is very well understood. But that just by trying to understand the world is a miserable place, we should not perpetuate it. So we have to try to make a proper order in the particular this world. And at the same time, we have to understand this world is a place to live harmoniously and get out of the place. There should be some transformation and get out of this place. For that to happen, there should be some order in the world. And that is why even Krishna comes to this world again and again to set the dharma or set the order in the material world. Krishna says, this world is Dukalema Shashwatam in two places, two verses in the Bhagavad Gita. And at that same time, he says again, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata adbhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. I am coming again and again to set the order in the particular world. So in order to have order in the society, both the Brahminical class of people and the Kshatriya class of people, they should be doing the things very nicely, their duties. But if we see recent 1,000 years of Indian history, slowly the Brahminical culture was diminished, and also the Kshatriyas, the influence of the Kshatriyas also diminished, because of which now India is suffering. Previously, India was very prosperous, and there was a spiritual practice of dharma. And even though, it may not be infrastructure, may not be good or very high-fi, but the Brahminical class and the Kshatriya class were doing their duty very nicely. They had the strong, uh, whatever duty they were doing in more of very nice way. So even the Varnashrama system was there in the society, and more or less people were happy and spiritually they were following, and more or less the India was spiritually flourishing to some extent. But because now the both the Brahminical class is they lost their, to some extent, the purity, and the political or the Kshatriyas also, they also lost the importance. The balance is lost. So as a whole, this world can be considered as the it's like the hospital, say. In the hospital, the patient cannot make it to be like a five-star hotel. He will I will connect a TV, I will connect here all our condition, and I will permanently stay here. It is not the case. Hospital is meant for getting cured and go back to home. It is not meant for enjoying permanently there itself. So similarly, this material world is not a place for enjoyment. It is a place of transformation. We have four types of problems, uh, which is Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, real problems of life. Then we have three types of klesha: Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika, klesha. So more or less world is miserable, and we try to make this a sukhalayam. It is not possible. Based on the what kind of karma the people are doing, these three types of kleshas will be coming. If we do more of sinful activities, animal slaughter or abortion, all the things that general populace whichever is doing, and they are trying to enjoy in various ways, uh, it will make the place more miserable. Just like the making the hospital to make a place of enjoyment, it will turn the situation more worse. So similarly, we can't make this world as a Sukhalayam. This is the place of Dukhalayam. Krishna himself has told that. But at the same time, we have to understand, say for example, a hospital's example, it is not a place for enjoyment, definitely. But there are some diseases the patients are having. It has some purpose. Hospital has some purpose. The medicines will be given, the treatment will be given, and the patients will get cured. And he will, after he gets cured, he will go back to his place, home, his home. He will go, and there he will be happy. So similarly, the material world is place of misery. We can't make it a place of Sukhalaya. But it is not only the thing. This is also place of transformation. So we have to transform ourselves and from the Bhavaroga, get cured from the Bhavaroga, and go back home, back to Godhead. So just the point what I am trying to make is, on one side, the philosophically we are understanding that material world is a miserable place, but it doesn't mean that we have to try to extend the misery in the world. We have to bring a order in the world so that we live peacefully, understand that this world is a place of transformation, and get away and get out of the material world totally, and go back home, back to Godhead. For this, I need to take the responsibility. So my responsibility will be there. Various things are there, as we know. It is better, always meditate on the instructions of Guru Dev, preach, mm, then for act for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, then as much as possible do book distribution, preaching. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told, Janma sartaka kari kara para upakara. So as devotees, whatever Krishna has given us the resources, we utilize it very properly. And as much as possible, we try to bring order in the either in the our own temples or in the world, in such a way that people will understand that outside world miseries are there, but when they come to ISKCON temple, they feel that these are the centers of serenity and happiness. When they see happy devotees, so we should become happy devotees. So when we become happy devotees, and internally if we are happy, so the people also observe us and they see these ISKCON centers as the centers of happiness. And then they try to come here and they also try to become happy. So then there will be more and more happy devotees. So material world is miserable, and it doesn't mean we have to disorganize things. Even Srila Prabhupada, he was very organized, very organized. And he didn't tell that, you reject all the material things, why it is required. He didn't tell those things. I'll give one small example. In Mayapur, what happened? There was a small tap during his time, and from that tap, every 6 years, 6 hours, one drop of water used to fall. Every 6 hours, one drop. But Srila Prabhupada was so particular, and when the drop used to fall, Srila Prabhupada used to come and tell the management where they are managing the tap. He used to tell that you are wasting Krishna's energy. So one drop in 6 hours. For that also he is telling. It's not to pinpoint the mistake or something, but he was so much cautious. So the whole point is, materially he wanted everything to be very pakka and organized. He didn't tell that the material world is a miserable place and why we can however the water is getting wasted, let it get wasted. No, not like that. So the point here is the understanding that material world is a miserable place is not a license for rejecting this world or to act irresponsibly. So we have to act very, very responsibly so that we become completely purified and completely disentangled from this material world. So it is every devotee's responsibility that until he goes back to Godhead, and of course afterwards also, that is his responsibility, individual responsibility, in to surrender to the process of purification and get purified and go back to Godhead. The responsibility is there on the devotee. It is just like if we see the different the birds when they are going, in front one bird will be there, behind two, then four, then six, that all the birds will be there. The front bird will be guiding, but all the birds have to fly, they have to put effort. So in the similar way, Guru will show us the path, how to go back to Godhead, how to go to Goloka Vrindavana. But we have to also flap our wings. So it is our responsibility. So we have to hear the lectures, we have to do the manana, and we have to apply it in our practical life. and we have to seriously try to come out of these anarthas. We cannot say it will go automatically, what I have to do from my side. We can't say that. We have to deliberately, consciously, try to come out of the anarthas. We have to consciously avoid offenses. This is our responsibility. So basically, these uh, basic things will be there. We set all the material things right just to be peaceful in our material life, so that we can practice the spiritual life very nice way. So we have to understand these things. So that's why two things are important: order in the material level, and uh, potency at the spiritual level. Order in the material level means we follow the timeline. 1 hour time is given. I finish the lecture in 1 hour 5 minutes. Then cleanliness we follow. We manage the things properly, and we see to that all devotees are happy, by making all ordered arrangements. That is our service, and that is called seva. We are doing the seva. And then second, at the spiritual level, we get the potency. That is happening by our morning sadhana, comes by chanting and hearing. When we do our morning sadhana very nicely, it gives the potency at the spiritual level. So these two things are very, very important. This is a sadhana and seva. We have to have the balance, and when we do this, we progress very nicely. So that is why taking responsibility and doing our sadhana and seva very nicely. So then what happens? We can come out of the this world of dukhalayam ashashvatam, and we go to the world there is no miseries, Vaikuntha, with no anxiety, no miseries, and that's the place of sukhalayam and shashvatam. So place of sat, chit and ananda. So basically, to summarize, we try to see in this particular verse, because this verse basically explains the world is a dukhalayam, miserable place. Of course, this was the theme throughout the uh, Srimad Bhagavatam, but that is not the focus. The focus is how to get out of the material world, and for that, we also discussed, karma kanda versus shuddha bhakti, and we also saw uh, just because the material world is a miserable place, we cannot say that we will continue to be making it a miserable place. No, we have to set order in the uh, so many things of our life, so that we can peacefully practice the spiritual life. For that to happen, basically the Brahminical and Kshatriya order should be very well organized. But India, what happened previously, it was very prosperous, but both Brahminical purity reduced and Kshatriya order collapsed, because of which India became a little bit miserable. But in our centers, ISKCON centers, we have to see to that it's very well organized, and whatever seva we can do from our side, we have to do, so that we become happy devotees. And people also see that there is a order, that where the management is also acting very nicely, and even the Brahminical uh, uh, qualities we are showing as devotees, uh, the being happy, being clean, and all the order, set order, and purity is the force. So all these things, when we show, people get attracted and they become happy, and being happy, they try to escape from the miserable place of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, and go back home, back to Godhead. So that is why we should not see this. This world is like a hospital, not a 5-star hotel. We should not make a hospital a 5-star hotel. So the whole purpose is to get cured of the bhava roga and go back home, back to Godhead. So that is the whole thing we have to understand, that this place should be, all the activities we are doing in such a way that becomes a stepping stone for us to go to the Goloka Vrindavana Dhama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So are there any questions or comments or corrections?
Hare Krishna. Madhav, wonderful, wonderful class.
Hare
Wonderful
Krishna.
reminders in the morning, Prabhu. So that's really great. And you actually complemented that with wonderful analogies also. And yeah, we know this place is miserable, but you kind of gave the tattva, how we should understand how we should deal with this material world. This dukhalam ashashvatam, it's inevitable that every place, everything will be a disturbance only. But how to deal with it, what is our responsibility, how to come out of it, is what you wonderfully brought it in the class. Thank you so much. I'd request devotees to, if they have any questions, inputs, or comments, or thoughts, please share. I think the lines are already unmuted. Yeah, please go ahead, Madhav.
Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavad Pranam. Very nice class in the morning, Prabhu. And so, as Balaji Prabhu has said, we need not be scared that we have to stay here. And you have told us how to make best use of it. Prabhu, you told about the example of the birds, no, Prabhu, how they fly.
Yeah.
Okay. One person going into another. And these birds, I heard, they fly in the V formation.
Yeah.
So the others can join. It's like the association of the devotees.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class in the morning. Dandavad Pranam, Prabhu.
Dandavad Pranam, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
In fact, Mataji, this V formation helps. It's like a cooperation.
Yes.
One bird, if it is tired, it will go back. So the drag is there, right? That helps the other bird to just keep continuing. When it is again rejuvenated, it comes back. So that way, very nicely said. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thanks for the wonderful class. A lot of realizations. And as you said, as Mataji said, V is also for victory. Finally, we end up with Vijayam.
Yeah, right, Mataji. Yeah, right.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Gaurchandra Gopinath Prabhu also has commented that thank you, wonderful class. I like the point, this place is for transformation. Positive way to look at this place. So, very nice point. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else would like to share? I know we all are aligned and accustomed to this fact that this is a place of dukhalim. Yeah. So nice, people can share, devotees can share the realizations if you. Okay, Prabhuji. I think if there is no more questions or comments, we will end the session with Vaishnava Pranams. Yes, Antakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Vaishnava ki jai. Thank you so much, dear devotees. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I will end the session for all now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.